My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. What may humanity learn from the wisdom and experience of our closest marine relatives, the dolphins? My guest this week on Destination Unlimited, Daniela Bumann, amid personal challenges, forged a profound connection with the highly intelligent and intuitive dolphin consciousness, unraveling the secrets that lie within our spiritual potential. Her story serves as a testament to the boundless possibilities of the human spirit. Daniela, a Swiss native based in California, is a corporate consultant, international teacher, transformational speaker, life coach, and evolutionary consciousness guide. Her insights and teachings open new pathways for change, helping individuals tap into their spiritual potential and fostering greater unity on Earth. Her website is vibrantlivingnow.org, and she joins me to share her path and new book, Gliding You Home, A Dolphin's Dream of a New Earth. Please join me in welcoming to Destination Unlimited, Daniela Bumann. Welcome, Daniela.
Thank you so much, Victor. Welcome to you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Daniela, please share your early path and how it led to your calling and work.
Okay. So first of all, I am an immigrant. I'm a Swiss native. And so I was born in Switzerland in a town called Sassballen of little over 250 people by a midwife. And my mom said that just like my birth, my personality was quite the same way. I came through with a vengeance, like places to go, people to see, things to accomplish. So, yes, I was born and raised in Switzerland, and I, from an early age, had a strong connection to Mother Earth and to my surroundings, and I felt a very strong interconnectedness to all that was, and was very turned on by life. And I was always very puzzled when I looked around and I saw people were more functioning in an automated state of being.
And how did your father's example open you to unlimited possibilities?
Well, my parents were entrepreneurs. My mom was very much the structure person, and my dad was the philosopher and businessman. And so he would very often alert us with when we were going through nature walks in the highlands, and he would like take us through the forest, and then he would tell us, shh, quiet children, listen. And then we would have to listen to the birds and to the wind and to the different elements that were all around us. And for me, that was deeply impressive to my entire psychospiritual system. So my dad, in many ways, really embedded the power of presence within me, that when you work from a present state of being, the unlimitedness of the universe around you is just absolutely dynamic. So it was, I think that had a lot to do with it, which then later on, years later, also led me to want to come to the United States as an explorer of or adventurer of consciousness, and as a citizen of planet Earth. You know, it was very exciting to me to explore what was out there.
Would you refer to your father
Felt like
as
there was more to life than what I saw.
Yes. Would you refer to your father as a mystic?
Yes, in many ways, I think I would. Hmm.
And how did he manifest that?
Well, he was born as probably number 14 of, 15 children,
Wow.
from a very poor family. Well, poor, they were farmers. They had everything they needed. Really, they were very rich because they had music.
Mm.
And so they grew up singing music, and so did I, and playing the accordion and the piano. And so my dad just had this incredible light about him. And he had this spark in his eyes up to about 6 months before his passing. And that spark was this little mischievous light of what's next? What's
Mm.
next to explore? And so my dad had an incredible trust of how life would evolve and presented opportunities. And mom and dad built the business, going door to door. And he always told us, he said, it's like God is telling me where to go. Go over here, Eloise, or go over there. And he was a good listener. You
Mm.
know, I had to learn a lot more about that later on. He was a very good listener
Mm.
because he just did it. So it's just his perception and his intuitiveness about life. He felt a tremendous connection, and because of that, he was also hypersensitive, as well. But the interconnectedness of all of things was something that he always had, that added a different level of intensity to growing up in that family than, if you grow up in a perhaps more of a conventional family. So my
And
dad saw nuances.
absolutely. And how did your corporate career ensue?
Well, from a very early age, I would read, in my very early teens, I would read books like Schicksal als Chance, which means Destiny as a Chance by Thorvald Detlefsen, which is a German author. And so I very much always studied psychology and Freud and Jung and Hegel and, the different philosophers. And I was just always extremely curious. And so I started to study personality profiles and communication types. And the second time I came over to this country to actually stay here, I realized the difference between the United States and Switzerland of mentality. It was much more drastic than I thought, Victor. The figure of speeches were different. The mentality was different. I have a quite good sense of humor, except at the beginning, nobody seemed to laugh at my jokes. and so I had to really learn and use my spiritual and psychological skills to adapt, to successfully integrate. And
Mm.
that fed my passion of team building, communication, peacemaking, or mediating. Mediating. It's like I often function as a translator. You know, um, hence I started to write books. I started to create different kind of materials in a corporate setting, also as a life and life mastery coach and career coach, because of my passion to explore the infinite potential that we carry really within us, and making and breaking it down in such a way where it combines the left brain and the right brain, and it creates a holistic way of perceiving, functioning, and expanding our sensory perception to then expand into the greater ethers of our universe.
Absolutely. Please tell us about your first book, actually, series of books, High Performance Without Pain. Was this born from personal experience?
Yes. So the book High Performance Without Pain, a 7-step blueprint to reclaim your vibrant life and get even more done, came about through, first of all, 20 some years of coaching. And even though I used a variety of modalities, from mindfulness to meditation to questionnaires to personality profiles, et cetera, it wasn't until I really started to incorporate those 7 habits, which are 7 character qualities that they would also perhaps call in Buddhism, that I started to see a palpable internal shift in my corporate clients that were, Fortune 500 clients and people from every walk of life. And so having burned the candle at both ends, I was building a business, coaching, seminars, retreats in Switzerland, while I was also taking care of my parents and was the case manager, so to speak, because I made sure that they were able to maintain at home till the end of their life. And so there was always a lot to take care of. My brother was involved in their care and managing the different caregivers because they were live-in caregivers, and my sisters were just peripherally involved, but I was the one kind of managing everything. And so I would often travel back and forth across the pond 3-4 times, like every 3 or 4 months a year. And so there was a lot of jet lag, building of my business over there, leading seminars, pretty much wearing every hat that you can wear. The negotiator, the seminar leader, the spiritual teacher, the communicator, the caregiver, the one that yelled at the caregivers, applauded the caregivers, talked to the doctors. You get the idea. So what ended up happening, 2014, I was back here in the United States and I was preparing for a keynote. However, suddenly I could barely move my arms, my legs, and the Energizer Bunny that had been on the hero's journey realized that the hero does have limits. And so I was faced with those limits. And from those limits, I was able to then deepen and expand the 7 habits that I talk about in the book, which is presence and judgment awareness, acceptance and belonging, compassionate action, which is about leaving no part behind, equanimity and communication, curiosity and goal achievement, and patience and transformation of the ego. Now, they all have subtitles, but I realized as I was having to sit for hours on end because I could not rush this journey of healing because this virus had attacked my my nervous system. And so what happened was, as life happens, I have sat 1,000 hours in the stillness of the moment, reflecting in its pace. But I realized that it never seems to go anywhere else but here. So when I explored these habits at this deeper level is when I ended up starting to put the book tangibly together. Of course, it is a culmination of client experiences and having actually taken them through the book. And the book is based on a gentleman that was the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And the way he found me was through burnout and a referral. And he could barely function anymore because he had pushed himself to the extreme, like many high performers tend to do. So once an individual grasps even just the first habit, which is the foundation of the house, it doesn't matter what problems or challenges there may be, because when you bring presence to that second, to that moment, it will then reveal its message to you. And if you're present, you will be able to receive it.
This is for anyone in business, correct?
Yes, this is for anyone in business. Yes, it's for anyone in business. The 7 habits are very much about looking through at your life through a different lens. When you work with habit 2, judgment awareness, really becoming aware of those judgments. And but it has a very practical slant to it. So it's not just, okay, these are my judgments and now I'm going to work on my judgments. It really goes to a deeper realm of understanding. And then the whole book always comes back to a compassionate action state for yourself and all those involved. So it's always about creating a unison within everywhere you are walking or where you're working.
What inspired your latest book, Gliding You Home, and how did your connection with dolphin consciousness influence the creation of this book?
Well, I love the question. The dolphin consciousness, they were really the main instigators. But what happened was, in 2018, after both of my parents had passed, I had another flare-up of this virus that had attacked my nervous system. And in many ways, it was also burning up much of the old, and it was updating, just like a computer system would, updating and needing the time to integrate while I'm still in the body, versus in the past, people may have left it. And so I was going through a phase where I had nonstop nerve pain, and I'm not good with medicine. I have a joke, and it's kind of goes like this. I'll make a horrible drug addict because I can't take a whole lot. Mm-hmm. So felt like I was at my wit's end, basically. And I was sitting, and I literally... Now, you have to understand, I was very much used to being able to monitor and manage my own emotional, physical energy mentally through discipline and practices. So when I'm saying I couldn't do that anymore, I was really I felt like I was at a wit's end. Now, I'm not talking about suicidal. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I just couldn't handle the pain. And so literally I slipped to the other side. Suddenly I found myself. And that's where slipping to the other side, and I talk about that in the first part of the book, comes in, because it was a poetic redemption of that experience where suddenly I did feel picked up by the dolphin consciousness, and they were showing me a completely different world. And it wasn't like I just went into a meditative state. I slipped to the other side. And then when I came back, it was pretty shocking because many of those filters were lifted, but I found myself back in my body. So, after that, there was a lot of integrating that needed to take place, and upgrading of the information. And they pretty much kept on insisting that I would write this book. Their energy is very loving and playful. However, also quite directive. And I guess I've been described the same way. They're very directive so I started to finally agree that I would write this book. And because it was something very close to my heart and soul. So to put that out into the written word for the public was like, it wasn't something I chose to do, really. But I followed the calling. And so they pretty much gave me the outline of everything right from the get-go.
I must share with our listeners that your book is a beautiful, prosaic stream of consciousness of this wonderful information that the dolphins shared with you. In my limited physical connection with dolphins, I sensed communication with them on a level that transcends words or spoken language. What did they share with you about this?
Well, what they shared with me about that really was that their big message really is about unity. And it really is about going to that next level mindset, and the higher evolution of who we are. So really what they are giving in many ways is tremendous transformational steps to let go of these old paradigms. And they were doing it as a lyrical guide to ascension of the new earth. And they're doing it in such a way where they are weaving in the information as you're reading it. And they're not even expecting you to understand everything, but they know that the deeper part of who you are will transcend the limitation of the mind and the intellect. So it really goes from the disconnection of humanity to the spiritual heart opening, to patterns no more. It pretty much is like it's like you're on a journey with them, and they're guiding you through it. However, you can also just open the book any place and use it as an oracle, which I didn't realize until I actually had the book in my hands. But they're really describing the steps of ascension and what living in the now looks and feels like. And of course, their world, Victor, it is very, very immersive. Like sometimes I had to take a break, because by increasingly working with them, I became increasingly sensitized even more to my sensory perception. And a big part of their message is the importance of humanity to increase the sensory perceptions on every level, not just the five senses. So we can start to feel the interconnectedness of all that is. Because when we do, our relationship changes. It's no longer the same relationship, because how could you relate to a tree and hurt the tree if you are sensing the tree's energy, right? I try to explain to them that, because I said to them it was getting a bit much for me to write the book by feeling everything. Even I've always experienced sort of life in living colors as a very dynamic state of being. And I've always had to sort of tune down and slow down and explain everything in the way I was perceiving it. And when I was explaining that to them, working with them was increasing that even more. They were saying, but isn't it beautiful? And because they didn't really understand that the human doesn't experience that, right?
You speak metaphorically about this transition as the surface to the depth of the ocean water. How does this represent a shift from a consciousness state to a deeper, more subconscious level?
It basically almost means like a washing away of what you knew before. And it's taking you to that next level. It's like shifting and pivoting you, almost like if you're watching a dolphin come up out of the water and twirling. And it's like sliding you into and pivoting you into that next state of consciousness.
Beautiful. My guest is Daniela Bumann. Her book is called Gliding You Home. Daniela, please tell our listeners where they can get your book, your website, and everything else about you.
Wonderful. Thank you. My website is vibrantlivingnow.org, and that's .org, not .com, vibrantlivingnow.org. And you can find me on social media. My books are available on Amazon, and also I think online through Barnes & Nobles and the different other big bookseller websites. And my email is info@vibrantlivingnow.org. If you would like to reach out with personal questions for programs, coaching, trainings, corporate and otherwise.
And we'll be back with more of Daniela after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week is Daniela Bumann. Her new book, Gliding You Home. Daniela, the concept of living in the now is a recurring theme in the book. How does embracing this state contribute to personal growth and our ability to connect on deeper levels with the world around us?
Well, living in the now in the way that the dolphins are explaining it is very much an unprogrammed state of being. There's so much explanation of what living in the now is supposed to be like, of course, by many other sources outside of myself, besides myself. Living from moment to moment but the bottom line is we oftentimes bring in a past term consciousness in living in the present moment. And so in the way that the dolphin consciousness is relating to it is really is kind of piggybacking on the last question that you asked me. When you take that leap and you transcend to that next level, that you start to leave those old paradigms behind and you start to relate to yourself and to your life experience primarily from the now moment, and not attached to the future or to a past moment.
And as your book discusses the importance of releasing old patterns and beliefs, can you provide some practical steps for readers to effectively shed the layers of past conditioning and allow for growth and evolution?
Mm-hmm. So in order to let go of past conditioning, it's very important to go into a meditative state, first of all. And as you are, for example, you're inhaling 3 deep breaths of present time consciousness. And you're dropping from your head into your heart and body wisdom, allowing your nervous system to simply decompress and relax and connect with Mother Earth, grounding your energy into a state of now here. And as you do that, you are allowing your mind to open. So if you picture a small circle, right? And you imagine that's the monkey mind going in a circle, the programmed mind, the monkey mind that attaches to every thought, that is over-attached to thinking every thought is urgent. But now imagine that you are taking that circle and you're going counterclockwise in your mind's eye. You're going very slowly counterclockwise. You can even weave in different colors as they're coming to you intuitively. And then from that place, start to expand and go against that wormhole of your own consciousness and expand and open, 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 open until you see a white gap and opening. And when you look out of that white gap opening, you see the present state of being in the now, in which you can move into. And just by setting that intention and not obsessing over past patterns, you can start to then slowly or quickly move through a deep breath, just like the dolphins would, a deep bellow. And you move out and to the other side. And when you get to that other side, you may at the beginning feel, sense, and see a void. And you allow yourself to become comfortable in that void. until things start to crystallize anew. And your reality starts to sort itself naturally through your spiritual heart and your mind's eye. And that will set the intention and the experience for the left and the right brain to embrace the pivot or a shift into the new paradigm as you are learning to practice to go back and forth between those two realities.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
One of my personal patterns, based upon my relationship with my father, became people-pleasing. When I was 8 years old, he became ill. I never felt loved by him before that time. And he became ill, and I became part of his caretaking team with my mother. And for the first time, I felt that he loved me. And it wired in my young mind this concept that if you take care of others or you serve others, you will be loved. And that led me to becoming a people pleaser for most of my life, until a point where pleasing others at the detriment of myself became a major challenge. And I had to learn to stop. And I had to learn to say the word no, which was very hard for me to say. And this generated a poem which came through me. May I share that with you?
I would love it.
It's called The Healing Power of No. A time comes for choosing rather than losing the essence that makes us so. And in the bestowing, there's power in knowing the freedom that comes with no. When said with compassion, not angry in fashion, and letting the self-love flow, there's a sense of renewing and deep soul imbuing the awareness that comes with no. So with gentle voice and the power of choice and the courage to make it so, I'm still here, my friends. There's no means in this end, just the healing that comes with no.
Beautiful. Yes.
Boundaries are so important, aren't they?
Boundaries are so important, and that's where the dolphins talk a lot about. I said it's so precious. That is absolutely I would love it if you would email me that.
Absolutely will.
I would love to share that with my clients.
Absolutely.
Very precious. That's where the first book comes in, Victor, with the 7 habits, because in habit 3, which is acceptance and belonging, right? Belong. Dad loved me. I'm 8 years old. I finally feel loved. You feel loved. Now you felt like you belonged, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And for that, how many have sold and are selling their souls, right?
Yeah.
Never been taught different. So the dolphins talk a lot about the importance of developing the different spiritual and character qualities in order for the full soul self, unresistant flow state and liquid mind to become manifest in the physical form of the human. Okay. And because so often the human tries to ascend to whatever spiritual levels without having developed the personality of the human, and is dismissing the development and the necessity of self-mastery. Right, like the quote, "No man is master of himself who is not master who is not master of himself." Right, and so what you're describing there really is that step to self mastery, to saying, "No, I have the right," and that comes. Hence, the habits in order through acceptance of whatever you are, and then the belonging. Where then in compassionate action of the first book, in compassionate action, you then learn to not just be compassionate, but to take actual action steps in reference to that. Because when you are aware of your worth and your purpose and what you're here to do, so much ends up then changing. And that's where the dolphins talk about the voice of joy flow, right? How did that make you feel, Victor, what kind of quality did that bring out in you when you ended up feeling that you could say no?
It brought about the sense of self-love.
Yeah. Self-love, self-joy, all of that. And when we start to learn through joy versus pain, right? And hence the dolphin and whale wisdom, the development of the liquid mind and that flow state that brings about, right? Creating this state of inner equanimity, of flow, of compassion, because you are then truly starting to see yourself as part of the microorganism, right? You're starting to move then from non-resistance, from resistance to a deeper state of non-resistance and acceptance.
And self-worth.
And self-worth. May I read a short poem out of my book?
Absolutely.
This just seems to really call to me to read. And this is one of my favorite parts here. It's actually at the end of Gliding You Home, A Dolphin's Dream of a New Earth. But I think it really fits into what we're talking about with acceptance and boundary setting and the original question you had. So the title is The Voice of Joy Flow. I am your guide to eternity, and along the way we float, readily down and down the stream, merrily, merrily down the flow, while releasing resistance to all of your human dreams. I am not physical in nature, but I am an energy of utter abundance, inviting all of you to play day to day. It's not difficult, you see, when you have engaged all of your creativity and your multisensory perception. You can then tap into the stream of what is alive momentarily, letting go of what resists and is not conducive to that flow, and use it as the ultimate conduit around rivers and rocks, or to actualize or materialize your highest aspirations. Inspirations that have been breathed into you from high above. Being in the flow is riding on the tail wings of your soul's effervescence, listening and tuning in to its call in the most practical affairs, as well as the more limitless and spiritual life endeavors, merged as one. I am the flow, and I am a whisper, a feather, a wing, an impulse, a thunder, an emotion, a tear and laughter, or just a wave along your river of time. I glide intuitively along the way of its waters. Resistance is not part of my territory, as I have given over it all, and constriction would only bind me to form and rigidity. Yet my way of interwoven relating is ever changing as I'm paying attention to the now. I am not hard but fluid, with intuitive wisdom and flexibility. I don't resist, and I don't insist, as I weave my way to what floats my boat the most easily to my highest vibing vision and frequency. This increases my ability to connect with zest, zeal, and vitality, and lets me pivot quickly among the people, situations, and interactions in my life. It's life-giving and affirming joy, threading the patterns of my destiny. I am a joyrider, and that is my superpower. Allow me to rise above or swim below the surf or riptide, or around what threatens or resists my soul's destiny. Flow is your most natural state, and yet the extent of human species programming, societal expectations, and upbringing, and its multiplying mindless robotic actions versus mindful relations have greatly restricted your inner knowing, your truth, and spontaneity, which is effortless in nature. The power of internal energy alignment is inherent within this frequency. I am like water, and you cannot catch me, but you can ride the wave of my ebb and flow when you pay attention to your soul's longing and destiny. No force, but flowing down the river of eternity. It is all the call of your destiny.
Thank you for sharing your ocean with us.
You're welcome.
Absolutely beautiful. And listeners, that's what you get in her book, Gliding You Home. Just beautiful, beautiful. Whether it be through the dolphin transmissions and Daniela's interpretation of them, it's just absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. Please read this book. You'll gain so much from it. My guest, Daniela Bumann. Her book is called Gliding You Home. We'll be back with more after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week is Daniela Bumann. We're talking about her book, Gliding You Home. Daniela, the idea of E-motion messengers, that's E-motion messengers, suggests that feelings are personal guides. How can individuals better understand and embrace their emotions as guides in their personal journeys?
Well, as you probably know, when we grow up, right, the boys are encouraged not to cry because crying is weak. And girls are sometimes allowed to cry, but it's not, emotions are not looked upon as something good or powerful. And it ends up, from a very early age, we end up going into a repressed state within our emotional awareness. Of course, this varies from individual to individual, but we end up repressing a lot of our emotional insights. Hence, the term emotional intelligence. Sometimes I work with clients in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they may have multiple degrees, but their emotional awareness is really not been brought up to par by a long shot, because they've not really known how to tap into that. So emotions as messengers really, in a very lyrical and on the other hand, very practical way within Gliding You Home, talks about the importance that when emotions are repressed, they get depressed and they start to sit within the body system. They become rigid and tight, and they start to sit within the muscles. At its worst, it can even create diseases where we're just not paying attention to the inner signals, to the red flags. And so emotions as messengers really dives very deeply into what that looks like when you are starting to trust that emotionally intelligent heart within you that beats every step along the way, and that when you learn to trust it, to what extent it can actually take you. So emotions as messengers is it was actually quite an emotional segment to talk about, and how often, or to write about, how often do we shoot the messenger, right? In this case, our emotions, right? And yet the heart indeed is really just the guardian of our tears, right? So we were allowing the river thereof to find its own organic way to flow through you and naturally out the other way. You're in a different pod because you've not stayed in your old stream of consciousness. So, but our tendency oftentimes really is to get very heady and go into the monkey mind and pretending that the emotions are not there. So it addresses components of feeling lost and what it means to actually address emotions and to use them as a power tool in order to regain what I call your power center. So this particular chapter does talk about how am I going to be able to address my emotions and use them as an inner compass in a way that makes me feel empowered, not in a way where it makes me feel disempowered, in a way that I can learn how to work with grief, in a way that I can learn how to work with passion or forgiveness. So, and to calm that inner critic and that chatter voice that goes on in our mind or in our monkey mind. So it really is asking you to take heart and gaining momentum and personal power as you learn to shift gears from your intellectual, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, so you can more readily pivot and shift those gears and perhaps go to neutral instead of being in emotional reactivity. We often tend to explain feelings mentally, and instead of just allowing them to speak up for themselves. So this chapter encourages you to and teaches you how to do that.
And the dolphins shared with you the secret chambers of your being, exploring the hidden chambers within the heart. What do these chambers represent?
Well, these chambers represent in many ways, like Indiana Jones, how he was on the hunt for the Holy Grail. right? So in order to us to ascend on these higher plateaus of our consciousness, and as we are preparing for a new world, which some of will be going on to and others won't be, but it is about going through these passageways. So different chambers will light up. It's, imagine if you're going through a tunnel and you are lighting the flashlight into different corners, and there's different components that are going to light up, like in a spooky show, or like they have at Universal Studios or whatnot during Halloween, for example. And so when you graduate onto different levels, there will be different things that are lit up within the core of the secret chambers of your heart that you will start to know about when you get there. But for that, you have to pass through these different phases, because the Holy Grail is not just there for the taking. You have to be able to walk through that path, and within your own life, in your own way, graduate to that next level, and then they will reveal themselves. So there is still so much to explore within your own human psyche, and far beyond. And the secret chambers of your being will give you an entryway on how to do that.
How may humanity embrace next-level mindset, what you call inscension?
Mm-hmm. So in gliding you home, I do talk about that next level mindset, right, and spiritual ascension. And then in my first book, High Performance Without Pain, it outlines the strategies, basically, right? But what it will do is it will help individuals that seek that journey to evolve their consciousness and then achieve that personal growth. So it will explore the spiritual dimensions of your personal growth as a blueprint for vibrant living, and the connection that we all share, the human connection, independently of political orientations or what's going on our worldly stage. So by integrating these two different approaches, individuals can evolve their consciousness and achieve a holistic personal growth.
And Gliding You Home touches on the concept of deep compassion and surrender. Please elaborate on how embracing vulnerability and surrender is akin to exploring an endless ocean of sacred treasures.
I love how you put that. Yes. So deep compassion and a surrender is really about allowing. The whole book is really about allowing and surrender and allowing your humanity to come forth, allowing it to show up and to be there and to be able to work and live much more from a liquid state of awareness, and then perception, and then integration, and then resonance, and then manifestation. So for that to take place, a deeper level of compassion needs to be allowed. So the question of what am I allowing in my life, in the plus or minus, and or what am I disallowing in my life, can really bring forth components of your humanity that otherwise couldn't be there, because you're creating a clean slate for yourself to show up in, and to surrender. If you were to imagine a pot of water, and to be able to surrender those feelings into it, where they're kept in tender embrace. And as you go into this surrender, just like when I slipped to the other side, I completely let go, at least at the time, in order to slip and experience myself from a different state of being. One that was not attached to anything, but reconnected with the ultimate source of who I am, and that brought me forth into creating that new world in the making, and in which we come from holism, unity, belonging, equanimity, and compassion and surrender are a big part of that.
The Wisdom of Daniela Bumann. Her book is called Gliding You Home. Daniela, one more time, please share with our listeners where they can get your books and find out more about you and your wonderful work.
Thank you, Victor. High Performance Without Pain and Gliding You Home, a dolphin stream of a new earth, unlocking your spiritual potential, a practical guide to evolving your consciousness for personal growth and fulfillment. You can go to my website, vibrantlivingnow.org. And that's .org, not .com, vibrantlivingnow.org. You can also get it on Amazon, on the different, on Barnes and Nobles. My email is info@vibrantlivingnow.org. And feel free to reach out with any questions that you might have.
Daniela, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this wonderful message.
It was absolutely my pleasure, and thank you for sharing your wisdom, Victor.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Furman. Have a wonderful week.